close my eyes, I see the night again. In all the dreams I have, I hear the sound of angels cry. Take me back, I need to find those distant memories. Hold on close, only my power through it all. In all my life, I've been searching for a better world, but time has let me down. Here we stand on this broken land. Raise my head up high, I can see the sun. We are the children with fire in the sky, and we are the future. Our souls in the night will never die. Feel the change, it seems it's like the same old day to me. Nothing here I have to live before they capture me. In all my life I've been searching for a better world, but time has let me down. Here we stand on this broken land. Raise my head up high, I can see the sun. We are the children with fire in the sky. We are the future. Our souls in the night will never die.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We are live. It's Thursday night. Of course, I'm Crossen, and it looks like I'm missing Dixie Dave here, but fear not. I just was chatting with him. He's coming on in. He's just running just a few minutes late, so he will be here. And we are live for another NWF Rewind. And boy, it's been a fun week for the NWF anyway, because of all the voting coming in for the Hall of Fame. And as you can see on the special banner up there, NWF Wrestling Hall of Fame voting ends March 31st. So that's your final date to be able to cast your vote if you haven't done so already. Lots of great giveaways we're doing, as you know. 5 championship belts, NWF Rewind t-shirts. We're giving a few of those away, and some books and DVDs and all sorts of stuff. So get in on that. You'll have a pretty good chance, actually, to get something. So great deal. And it's just been busy. I've been, as you know, if you've been watching our YouTube channel, I've been doing lots of work with upscaling the NWF video library. This is a process, and I'll show you the latest thing we did a little bit here before we start the show. But it's a lot of work. It's not just one program. There's like 4 different programs I use to get that right and to dial it all in. And I don't know anybody that's doing it out there. To be quite honest with you, not like to get that kind of quality. For years I searched for all that. Is there any way to make VHS look better? Because anybody who knows VHS or half-inch tape, that's what all of our material's on. This is the lowest of the low in all of the video world as far as quality. And so to be able to make it look better is something that there's always been empty promises on this, things you could buy, hardware devices. And I tried a lot of things over the years, and it just adds noise. It never really did anything. But now with AI technology and video proper upscaling, and I'm not talking about those hardware upscalers that you see people offer. That's garbage too. Well, it's not garbage, but it's not what you kind of quality that I've been showing you. And for the first time, I mean, I've actually been able to improve VHS, which is, I thought I'd never be able to say it. So it's, we have an announcement next month on, what we're going to be doing there. Some exciting news for NWF on the video library. So, we got to get through this Hall of Fame though first. And, so, before we start, talking about the big news updates and everything, let's see here. Sports Talk 117 in the house tonight. Sports Talk as usual. Love the new formatted video you posted. It looks so much better. Yeah, I'm telling you. And when you can watch it on YouTube, that's why I've been putting those little test samples up there to kind of show you guys so you can watch it in 1080p at 60 frames. Initially I said we're going to go to 720, but then I thought, let's see what happens. Let's push it to 1080. I could go to 4K, but I know that is not going to be that would not be you can't take VHS and go that far. It would look cartoonish. But to be able to get up to 1080p, and the 60 frames adds this just great things for the motion. So all the the moves, the fast-paced moves and stuff, they're going to look better. And you see the results. And these are just little snippets. But like I said, big plans for the NWF library next month. You guys are going to be real excited. We're going to got some good news coming for all that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Gizmo's in the house tonight. Let's see what Gizmo has to say. Gadget Gizmo. I'm sure it's the same Gizmo. Good evening, everyone. This is Gizmo11729. Had to change my account to Gizmo Shadow. I was getting too much junk mail under the old account. I hear that. But it is still great to be with you. Yep, absolutely. And now I understand what you're doing there. I've had that happen a number of times. I want to remind everybody too, I didn't realize how important this is, but give us a like and subscribe, especially likes. If you can, everybody watch right now, give us a like on the video, on the stream. It really helps the algorithm of getting placement and searches and everything and kind of getting out there. So if you guys can go ahead and give us a like on the stream right now, that really helps us out. So, like, and of course, if you're not subscribed, subscribe and hit that bell so you always get notified when we're live. That always helps. And so the Hall of Fame, folks, it's underway. And for those of you who don't know, like you've been seeing that banner up at the top coming on and off, the voting will end on March 31st, 2024. And that's Sunday. So it's just a few days left. I don't know if you guys have all gotten your votes in or not yet. But get in on it. You're going to have a chance to get some pretty cool stuff. No doubt about that.
Oh, yeah. Lots of great prizes for everybody.
Whoa. There he is. Dixie Dave in the house.
I am live, ladies and gentlemen.
Still connecting up, so his video will pop in when he can. So yeah, March 31st, Dave, is the final nail in the coffin for the NWF 2024 Hall of Fame and Hall of Fames in general for our league. It's going to be the last one.
Yep. Last round for anybody to get in. Whoever doesn't get in this time around will never get in.
And let me give my Hall of Fame disclaimer. I do it every show for anybody that might be new watching. Dave, are we famous like Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair?
No,
that's not what we're saying here. Our Hall of Fame is just to give us recognition for our guys in our league, for our thing. So it's just, all sorts of organizations have Hall of Fames, and so we figure we'll have one too. But we're not, yeah, like Dave, we're not trying to say we don't want I don't want people to perceive us as being like we think we're famous and we need to have this Hall of Fame. That's not what it's about. It's just about to recognize a little something for the guys. You know, they get a plaque and everything when they get voted in, and that's just a little recognition for them, really.
We're famous in the little town that we did it in.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so and then for you guys who don't know, to vote for the NWF Hall of Fame, you just go to nwfwrestling.org/HOF 2024. That'll take you to the page. And on that page will be a link to vote. You can't miss it. And
don't forget, vote Dixie Dave.
I'll tell you, the voting. Now, I haven't shared, Dave knows this. I haven't shared with anybody the results. I'm the only eyes on it right now. And I'm telling you, it's getting very tight. And it'll be interesting to see who gets in this Hall of Fame, to be quite frank. And so, you know, this is truly, you know, when they say, you know, your vote really doesn't matter, it doesn't count. This, our Hall of Fame with the number of votes, because you're not getting, you know, thousands and thousands of votes or anything like that, Dave. But so for the numbers
of 100 yet.
No, I mean, we're close, but look, we don't have that many votes coming in, so your vote does matter for some of these guys, I'll tell you that. So yeah, get your vote in. It'll be only a few days left on it. So, and Dave, you can see the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of improved resolutions and everything, I want to share with you the latest one that I just put up on YouTube. You guys can go watch this when you get a chance. This is Fred Moore Junior High footage. Everybody wanted to show what we can do with Fred Moore. And let me just bring this audio down just a snippet, because this audio doesn't really matter here. So there we go. There's the new and improved footage. You had seen the old footage, you know, prior to that little flash, and now you can see how it's just cleaner, crisper. You know, when it's distance, when it's far away like this, it's not quite as good as when it gets closer. If you watch the camera when it zooms in and gets up close, you'll notice that things pick up a lot better. So that's why interviews look so well. And you'll see the interview there. I got an interview segment on this as well towards the end of this. And you'll be able to see what the interview. This is all new, cleaned up footage. This is a very complicated process. The workflow on this is crazy, you guys. If you knew what I was doing to make this happen. I wish I could get rid of that text. Now, there's things out there that claim you can get rid of watermarks and all this stuff and get rid of anything. And that might work on higher definition footage, but on VHS footage, it makes it look really weird when you try to get rid of text. It doesn't look right at all. It looks like you could tell there was something there. So there's not yet any way to do that. I think someday they might come up with something like that, but for now, we're kind of stuck with the text. Now, that's the slider showing you like the before and after. I always like that comparison. But notice how it looks good, Dave, when it's close.
Oh, yeah.
You can really see it pop really good when the camera zooms in on anything. We're going to flash out. Now, here's another one. It's old footage now, and it's swiping into the new footage. And you can see, you know, that red line. The stuff on the right is the old. The stuff on the left is the new. And you can see how it comes in. You can see what it's doing. Just unbelievable, really. I never thought I'd see the day, Dave, when we could do that. When we can clean it up like this.
Exactly.
And so then we'll see here now. Is going to transition out of this, and we're going to go to an interview, and the interviews are even better. When we get closer, wait till you see the interview quality. When it gets up close for interviews. And of course, this was Fred Moore Junior High in that famous ring that we all love so much to remember. So here's the interview. Here's the old footage. There's the new footage. What a difference, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just look at the hair and everything. Like, here's the old, as it's, you know, our hairdos and stuff. You'll notice the hair is where you can really see it, I think. You see the detail on the hair. But everything. Even the belt that X is holding looks, like, really good in the cleaned up. I mean, I
looks
just never.
As good as the belts that we have now.
I got to tell you, I never thought I would see the day when I'd be able to do this, to our VHS quality. It's unbelievable. But this is what AI technology is bringing. And something, this is only going to get better. So, which is why I'm saving the captures in raw format as well, because there might come a day where it gets so bad. I'm going to wish I still had that so that I can then do it again and do it even better. Who knows? You got to think ahead, folks.
Oh, Crusher, you're going to do this all over again.
But man, and it just looks so good. And not only is the software, this is expensive software, you guys. This is not cheap to do this. I'm using 4 different programs that I work with that I've pretty much just kind of put together my own little chemistry here, almost like in a lab, trying to see what works and making this all work. There's nobody out there that's doing this that I know of other than Hollywood, and you'd have to pay a fortune to go there to have things done. And then there's the hardware side of things. I had to, I'm getting one of the top state-of-the-art VCRs you can get to be able to capture from. I'm using a time-based corrector. These are all things behind the scenes that are just technical stuff, but I'm trying to make it the best quality we can. Let's just say that. And it's a complicated process. And I've had, Dave, I had some friends of mine, I've got a degree in video production. And I've shared some of this footage with them, just let them see. And they're all telling me I should be doing this as a business, for other people's VHS quality. And I'm thinking about it. But, if I do it as a business, it's going to be a premium service. This isn't, for people's weddings and stuff like that they have it on VHS and they want to get it upscaled properly.
Exactly.
It would, I'm not going to do it for nothing because it's a lot of work. But it would be a premium service. But it'd be a lot better than that crap you get from Legacy Box or Walmart or Sam's Club if you try to bring your tapes in there. Believe me, I've seen the videos of how they operate. Whatever you do not go to Legacy Box and Walmart and those places.
Right.
At least a quality person that's doing quality transferring, at least the transfer part, because you'll get garbage at those online places. Trust me. All right, enough of that. So, Dave, today we're gonna go and we're gonna be watching a Fred Moore Jr. High taping. It was actually our second show at Fred Moore.
Alrighty.
It was actually the third show, but it was the second actual physical taping at Fred Moore. So that should be pretty fun. And hang on, let's just get another comment in here from Sky Sports Video News. I see we got one more. Most of us work at Sky Sports. We are waiting till after this episode to vote. Any last minute suggestions? Okay, so any last minute suggestions before we start the show? Dave?
Well, you know who I'm biased towards.
Well, it wouldn't be Dixie Dave, would it?
It might be.
Okay, besides yourself, any last minute suggestions? Because we know that you want yourself, and I would too if I was in your
and if our friends out there need a disclaimer why it'd be a good idea to vote for me, why I deserve the right to be in there. The NWF Rewind show was the brainchild of Dixie Dave.
Boy, that pedestal keeps getting higher and higher, doesn't it?
Hey, I'm just trying to throw, I'll admit, back in the day, I wasn't the greatest wrestler.
Yeah.
But has my heart been in the NWF?
Dave, have I ever questioned anybody's wrestling ever back in the day?
No,
that was never the thing with me. I didn't care how good you were. I just wanted you to have the opportunity to be on the show, if you wanted to. Yeah. So you know that.
But
yeah, your heart was definitely.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna disclose when I personally voted for the announcer. I voted for Jeff Dinsmore.
Jeff was a great one. All those announcers are great. My
yeah.
Every one of them. I feel strongly with every one of them. I do.
For managers, I was torn between two just because of knowing their histories with the company.
Yeah, managers is a harder one because we didn't have dedicated managers, really, except the Mystery Man. But he then became a wrestler as well.
Well,
Uh,
we did also have Mick Weller.
right, but Jason was a lot of people. Mick Weller was
Right,
just one of them. When I mean dedicated, I mean that was his only deal. He was
right.
just a manager. Mystery Man
You know,
started
I,
out
I
that
was
way, but
I was torn between Mick Weller and Jackknife.
yeah, Jacob. You know, the,
You know,
yeah, I would argue there that he's definitely one to vote for. I mean, he had he was the first that really went into the manager role, even though he wrestled too. But he really, he called it the Jacob family,
yeah.
and he really took that on. He really he real heavily influenced with Bobby Heenan, and
Hmm.
as we all were. I mean, he was a legend as a
Exactly.
manager. Um,
Well, I mean, to me, my top three managers. Well, if I was going to do a Mount Rushmore of managers, overall throughout the entirety of pro wrestling.
Heenan, Cornette, Fuji,
Well, you're making it harder for me now. Because what I was initially going to say
Jimmy Hart, maybe.
is I was going to say Captain Lou Albano.
Oh yeah, Captain Lou.
Yep. I was going to throw Heenan up there.
Yeah.
I was going to throw J.J. Dillon up there.
JJ, yeah, but the Four Horsemen, that's about it though with him, really.
Yeah. And the
Um,
other one I was initially going to throw up there, you may poo poo and say, oh, you know, he was no big deal. But Paul Ellering.
yeah, Ellering was a real manager. I don't know if people know that.
Exactly. That's why I think he deserves.
He actually did manage, like for real. He really did
Yeah, he
handle the Road
actually
Warriors.
booked their hotel rooms, booked their shows,
Yeah,
cut deals with promoters.
yeah.
He was a real deal manager. He took care of their transportation. And I mean, come on, Hawk, that would have been a handful.
Yeah, well, he was. Um, his lifestyle, but
Getting
you know,
back to the NWF, though.
but that back to the NWF tag teams, there's a lot of great tag teams in there. Um,
Oh, yeah.
uh, I'll tell you this much: being on two different tag teams, people are confused which one to vote for when it comes to that. And in some situations, I can tell you that you get votes coming both ways in some cases. You know how they say
If I was
you can
gonna,
steal votes from somebody, you can also steal votes from yourself, so to speak.
if I was going to vote for a tag team that Crusher Crossen was in, I would have voted you and Dredd.
Yeah,
Just for the simple fact, if I remember correctly, Kelsey's already in the Hall of Fame.
twice.
And,
He's in as a manager as well.
and, no matter what anybody says, I think Densmore deserves to be in.
Yeah, I mean, he does. Jeff, he contributed. But Dave, in my opinion, they all deserve to be in.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. If they're on the ballot, they're deserving. So I know these guys over there in Sky Sports are struggling with it. They're probably thinking, well, who should we vote for? And they've watched a lot of the podcasts. They have a good idea on who's on the show, and it's probably hard for people like that have watched a lot of it already. And
One thing I will say is something I originally said when somebody's trying to decide to vote. And this isn't just directed at Crusher and I. This is directed overall. Think about the people who, 40 years later, 35 years later, have been willing to take time out of their schedule to sit down to spend time with our fans.
Yeah. There's some people, Dave, that don't want to be a part of it anymore. That we know of, that you and I know of personally, and nothing wrong with that. And some in some of the cases, I'm still friends with these guys as well. But people are at different points in their life, and some people don't necessarily like to really look back or dwell on the past on anything, not just the wrestling, but any of it. They're just fine and content with their life the way it is, and they're moving forward. Totally fine. We don't force anybody to come on the show. We don't force anybody to be a part of the league, its history, or anything like that. That's totally up to them if they want to be. And for those who do want to come and share time with us, those are the ones that do. And the ones you haven't seen are just the ones that choose not to. Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
But you're right, to your point. Who should be in the Hall of Fame? Maybe you look at that kind of thing, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So let's get our show started. I know our viewers are waiting to see show 57.
And I apologize about being late, but, life happens. Something came up.
Yeah.
Caused me to be a few minutes late, and I apologize to our viewers.
And everybody watching, chime in, chat away. We'll take your comments as we roll here. And remember, don't forget to like and subscribe. That really helps us out. And hit that bell. Once you subscribe, hit the bell as well so you know when we're on. But give our stream here a like. Helps us out. Helps the channel. Helps algorithms and stuff and placement for searches and all that kind of stuff. So really does help. So let's get going with the show. Make sure I pick the right one here. I don't want to pick that one I just showed you guys. There we go.
Without any further ado.
Can you hear any music?
Just slightly. Now, to all of our viewers, I know a couple weeks ago we had problems with my volume being loud. If I'm coming in loud, let me know.
And same with me. Let us know in the comments, please, if there's any volume issues. Or if you hear the show good enough, if you need to hear the volume on the show more, just let us know in comments and we'll make adjustments. So Fred Moore Junior High, fun place. This was an exciting time for the league. We had just gotten permission to go into Fred Moore, and was our second taping there. The wrestling's still going to be on the level of the garage days, so don't expect any high spots quite yet. That's all coming. That'll come in, as we get into the Armory shows and all that stuff. The wrestling will develop there as we go on and later on in this year. But at this point in the time in the show, it's still pretty rough wrestling-wise. Let's just say that. What is the word you always used to use, Dave? We're not polished.
Exactly.
Yeah. A comment here from Gizmo.
Yep.
Dave, I'm glad you came up with the idea of the show. There is a new group trying to do the same thing. I will get their name by your next show. Your show is so much better. I'd love to see the new group. Yeah, maybe we could we could do a simulcast with them, go live on both of our channels together.
We encourage anybody to follow their dream.
Yeah.
And back when the NWF was in its heyday, we were all kids who loved pro wrestling, who wanted to be pro wrestlers. And thanks to the mind of Crusher Crossen, we all got to live our dreams at a young age.
And what a time that was, man. Oh,
yeah.
Dave, people say, would you ever do it? Could you do it? If you could do it again, would you? Man, would I ever do it again? And going back, if I could go back in time and do this again, absolutely 100 times over. It was just too much fun. I mean, how could you not want to go back?
Camaraderie between all of us. I remember times after the shows were over, we'd all get together and go to Burger King.
Oh, yeah. They had McDonald's right down the street from me. So, in fact, when we do these garage shows, I'd always go to McDonald's in the morning at my own expense and buy the big orange drink you used to be able to get from there, the big cooler thing, and they fill it up with ice and the orange drink mix, and you mix it with water. and we'd have
Yep.
for everybody to drink, stay hydrated. And I used to do that.
Yep.
We'd have a big, huge 5-gallon thing of this stuff. Yeah. Worked really well. It was cheap too. It wasn't that expensive to get that. So. How's the volume, Dave? Good, loud enough?
Maybe bring the vocal up a little bit.
Okay. Good?
I'm buffering at the moment.
All right, just let me know. All right. Yeah, it was just an exciting time. I can tell you that right now at Fred Moore. Notice we got the flag in the background.
Yep. Now, question for you. At the time that this was filmed,
Yep.
was the Armory on the horizon yet?
No. We got the idea when we got the idea to do the Armory, or when we kind of went in there and got the tour and all that, was just prior to the show where we announced it. So a little bit louder, huh? All right, make it louder. All right, let me know if we're good there, Sports Talk. But yeah, so yeah, I'm trying to think when that. I think we started talking about the Armory. It was in March. It was right after the. Was it show 62? No, the show before 62. So the next taping after this show. So this taping here was 56, 57. Then we did 58 and 59. And then we did 60 and 61. 59 and 60. So 60. I think it was 50. The next taping we do at Fred Moore, we knew it. So yeah, we would have been going and getting the idea to do the Anoka Armory right after this taping. Somewhere between here and the next taping.
Okay.
Is where it,
I was just, it's prior to me joining, and I was just wondering timeline.
Yeah, it would be. This was February 5th, so it was mid-February. And that makes sense because it was a couple months before May. So we needed 2 months to really prepare for it. So when we made the call, Dave, to do the Anoka Armory, when I made the call, I should say,
Yeah.
we didn't have a dime to our name. We didn't have a wrestling ring at all, except that ring that was in the garage. That was a foot off the floor and was in the garage ring, which was never going to work in the Armory. And that's all we had.
Yeah.
So think about it. If we're going to go do the Anoka Armory, we book it, and we don't even have a wrestling ring suitable. We don't have any money at all, and that's how we started. So the first thing I did is I got tickets printed. I scrounged up enough money to pay for the tickets. And then I went and had all the guys selling their tickets to anybody and everybody they can to help raise money in advance. Advance ticket sales. So that's what got money coming in initially. And then we did... I just got to thinking we got to get sponsors, and I know that school events always sponsored. Like if you were in football or some other sport, you had to do fundraisers all the time, right? And you had to go around and get sponsors.
Yeah.
And so I went to all the businesses in Anoka explaining what we're gonna do, and we needed sponsors and stuff. And I got as much as I could. And I got a bunch of businesses to sponsor us, not as many as you would think, but I got enough, and that brought in some extra money. And that's how we kind of got the money going for the Armory. Just enough to barely be able to, and then I had to borrow some money from my parents as well. Just enough to get things going so we could get the ring rebuilt for the Armory and then get everything we need, just enough to get in there. What a gamble. What a gamble that was. When the audio goes down, this is an interesting show. You'll hear one of the commentators. This guy commentating, Chris Irick, the eye. Well, now you hear me, but But that Chris Irick, the troublemaker I was telling you about that we had back in the day, that were getting fights with some of the kids off the show and everything. We had to eventually get him out. We had to kick him out.
Yep.
But he was a train wreck as an announcer on this show, kind of making a goof of himself and everything. And so I suspended him after this show. He was suspended from the microphone, meaning he couldn't go to the commentating table and do it because it was bad. You can hear some of the stuff he says on this show. You'll hear what I'm saying. And I'm like, so you're suspended from the mic is what I did to him. That's the first little slap on the wrist I gave Chris. Chris Irick, that is.
Yeah.
So.
He said hi. Whoa, you heard it. Whoa. Whoa, we got Kid USA out of the ring. He looks like a big.
And that's. So, this is actually Kelsey's first time in. Look at Kelsey cheating with the gauze. You know, Kelsey was a baby face on the show, but he was really a heel all along. Coming in with foreign objects and everything. But yeah, this was Kelsey's first time at Fred Moore. He didn't make the show 55 taping. He wasn't on our our debut in Fred Moore. Which is very interesting. I don't know why he wasn't. But him and Rough Ryan weren't there. But the Super D's were on our first show on Fred Moore. But Kelsey, it was interesting that they made it, but Kelsey didn't. Because they usually always used to share a ride.
Yeah.
He just got whipped.
But yeah, so like I said, some exciting news coming for the NWF catalog, the NWF video library coming in next month. We'll make an announcement, and
yeah,
I think everybody will be.
Told me about it earlier today.
I think everybody's going to be real excited for that. All this upscaling, all this new technology, will make it go for good use. Of course, this isn't upscale. This is old footage.
Yep.
But this is the kind of thing we're looking at changing and improving.
Give me 1 second. I will be right back, Crusher. I gotta step away for just a minute.
Yep. Got a comment in here from Damian Thorne. If you guys could go back to any age during the show, what age would you pick? Oh boy. You know what age? Okay, I'll tell you what. If I could go back to any age, I'd go back to the very beginning of it, when I was just turned 14. And the reason is because I guess I should say, if I could know what I know now and go back and do things different, so I could do things differently, and I would keep every single tape that we recorded of anything and keep the raw footage, something I never did. I always kept the edited footage, but I never kept the raw footage. That's what I would do differently if I could. So that's why I'd want to go back to the beginning. Every single time we put a tape in to record anything, whether the Armory events when we had multiple cameras, we used to hard edit those, and I would save every source. So I had because today that would make a big difference in the upscaling that I've been doing, all the upgrading. The better the video quality, the better it's going to look in the end. So we'll see what Dave says when he comes back.
And I'm back.
So yeah, Dave, if you could go back to any age during the show, what age would you pick?
Well, I mean, I was there, in 86, so if I go back to 86 and be back in the ring again.
Yeah, but you were around in 87, would you pick 87? Would you pick 86?
I would stay with the company as long as I could.
Yeah, so you'd want to go back to the beginning, earliest you could, huh?
Yep.
Would you do anything differently?
I'm not sure. I was just one of those worker bees that, if I was told to do something, I'd do it.
Yeah.
If I was told I was cutting the lights that night, that's what I did.
Well, this was Steve's own deal here. He decided to bring a nice sports coat and stuff, so he could act as like an announcer for the matches. Nice touch.
Yeah.
And that was all Steve. I mean, that was his idea. Sky Sports Video News says it's a lot easier to save footage these days now with digital technology and a whole lot cheaper. Oh, yeah, that's why we didn't save the raw footage, because VHS tapes, half-inch tapes, as we'd say in the industry, were not cheap. They were, in those days, in '84, you're talking $10 minimum for just the generic grade. If you wanted something like Scotch was one of the better brands, or JVC. If you wanted one of those tapes, $15 a tape. And so they just weren't cheap. And it was it was just an expense that I didn't have the foresight back then. I didn't know that something like HD would come along. I didn't know that all this better quality would come along and that video grading and resolution mattered.
Exactly.
I knew that editing tapes, you had a generation loss and it got lesser quality. I knew that, but I didn't know how much that mattered. Like I do now, So that's the thing. And those of us who lived through the half-inch tape days and VHS days, boy, we know what it's like back then, and we don't ever want to go back to those days.
No.
When you have 4K technology now and everything, 8K technology and stuff.
I mean, right now, there's a movie I have on DVD, and I can't wait for it to come out on Blu-ray.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I had some people in the video business, my colleagues that I went to school with, and now in the field and stuff, working with video production. And I've seen my upscaling work, and they're just amazed, especially the ones that were around back in the day that knew VHS are just amazed, and they're like, you got to do this as a living. This is a business. There's a market out there. People that have sentimental stuff, weddings and events and stuff that they had from the 80s that's on VHS tape. I said, guys, it's not just limited to that. I can take HD and go to 4K. I can take my same process and turn HD quality stuff into 4K. So, and they're like, well, there's a whole market for that. And they're right. So I got to really look into that.
See if it's going to be worth your time.
Right. Well, like I said, I would only do it for a certain amount, and that's the way it is. People already capture what I call quality capture, which is a step above all these other places out there like Legacy Box that do true good quality capturing that actually monitor it. Those people charge a pretty good price for doing that. So I would not only be doing that level of capturing, but I would be doing all of the upscaling. It would be work, and it's got to be worth your time. But you know what, Dave? People that have sentimental stuff and they have money to spend, they're willing to spend it, when it means a lot to them. So, yeah, I got to look at it. Because I enjoy doing it. I take pride in making chicken salad out of chicken shit. Let's just put it that way, because that's what it is. VHS is the worst to work with. So, Slick Steenerson and the Eye, they were a great team. So this is the U.S. Enforcers. They're on the ballot for the Hall of Fame for tag team. This is the first incarnation of the U.S. Enforcers. The Eye would eventually get kicked out of the show, as I told you, and then he would be replaced by, ironically enough, the Fly. So the Eye turns into the Fly, and Jade took his spot and was in the team then from there on out. And Jason, I remember this show. Jason asked me if I could be his partner because he needed a partner. I forget who was going to be his partner, didn't show up, and he says, hey, can you take a spot? And I said, sure. So that's the only reason I'm in this match, because he asked me to before the match. I remember. Funny how I can remember those things. And I remember the conversation.
Crossen is going to get... It seems like he's going to get body slammed, but he's having a little bit of trouble there. Crusher Crossen is down and hurt.
421-6798. That was my house. That was my number there. That hotline number always would change. Every now and then Jason would do it, then I'd do it. And get different numbers that show up on there for that hotline.
Ref, get him out of there.
So yeah, speaking of that number, Sports Video says, what was that number flashing at the bottom bring you back then? That whole point was for anybody that had comments, questions, suggestions, or interested in joining the show. So that we got a lot of wrestlers from that hotline. A lot of kids to join. A lot of match suggestions. People that watch the show would request, lots of times would request matchups. That kind of thing. You know, back then, in those days, before the internet and before satellite television and a maximum of 50 channels on the system, people channel surfing, basically, you know, flipping the remote, channeling up and down. People would pop onto our show quite a bit, actually. And we'd get quite a few people viewing. And so we gained a pretty decent audience in those days. And I could judge that by the phone calls we'd get. And I never really answered the calls live. I had a answering machine, as they called it in those days, with a pre-recorded message, letting them just leave a message on their comments, questions, suggestions, or to join the show. And so I would always just review the messages. That's how I did the hotline. And that's kind of was just to get feedback, really. And anybody who wants to join the show could leave a message, and we'd then get back to them. So
I think we need some help in the ring there. Yes, I think we do too.
yeah, there's Steve Engstrom. About to give us the decision.
I do not yet know who wins.
This is our primitive slow motion. It's the equipment wasn't set up to do it. I would just have to hold the cue on the search thing. That's why I got that nasty line. And that's how I would do slow motion. Very primitive. Just using what technology we had. Same with this chroma key effect. Yep.
You know, hey, we did what we could with the technology we had.
Yep. That's all you could do,
and
really.
We made the best of it. I mean, come on, cut us a lot of slack here. We're kids doing this.
In 1986 as well. You know.
Yeah.
Most kids didn't have access to camera equipment like this even. You know, camcorders weren't really a thing until the late 80s. And we're using actual recording units, a camera hooked up to a recording deck. It's not like this isn't camcorder type equipment. This is like more professional grade.
Exactly.
I remember the Portapack units we used for this kind of stuff were Panasonic units.
You heard that? You heard that by Corporal.
That's what they called them, Portapacks.
Well, this is the first time that Corporal Fox and Crusher Crossen lost the words.
What do the words say? You know the little wimps over there, they're no good. They had to cheat on us.
The Crusher checked private chat.
What in the belt? And you take mine, but the darn belts are mine. And the split.
Well, I have no decision on who gets what because I'm no longer in professional wrestling.
Hey, get out of there!
We'll be right back after this word from our
Health usually has no
Okay.
symptoms and could be deadly. Not paying alone.
I know your connection looks a little low. I'm getting a message. It's telling me that, so that might be part of it. On your end, Dave?
We don't want you to be a loser. The American Heart Association.
But I don't know if there's anything you can do, though, for that. But you're coming through fine.
Well, that's what I was saying is you're coming in fine at the bottom. It's just my...
Well, Sergeant Smash in there with Private Paulus was a good friend of his. He grew up with him, I believe, in the neighborhood there in Coon Rapids. And he just came early because Chris wanted him to come, with him. There's Rock and Ronabomb. with his new tag team partner, Mike Sanger, the rock and roller he called himself. Fortunately, Sanger was one of those one and done. Sanger, though, was interesting. He was actually in amateur wrestling in school. This question gets brought up quite a bit, Damian Thorne. Crusher, do you still have the half shirt? I quickly learned who you were back in the day when I saw the shirt in the ring. Do you still have it? If so, you should bring it back out. I looked for it, and I have a bin of all my old stuff that I had from way back in the day. And I still got my singlet and my black tights singlet that I had for a long time. And I have a lot of the shirts I wore back then. I cannot find that half shirt, though. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I can't imagine getting rid of it. I just haven't been able to come across it. At least not where I think it would be. But
Could it be in your storage?
that's possible. It is possible. But yeah, that was a kind of a unique shirt. I wore it a long time. You know, I wore that shirt from almost the very beginning, all the way through the first Armory show. And I think it was after the May 9th card when I stopped wearing it, shortly after the first Armory card.
Well, I don't remember it at the Armory show.
Yeah, I wore it out on May 9th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did.
Smash. Tough Tony is in the ring right now. Yes. Tough Tony tags with
But yeah, that's the hotline, and that's what that was all for. And
taking over.
some of the shows we haven't watched yet, you guys, that are coming up, like from Fred Moore, are going to be tough ones to watch because they got these rolling text through the whole screen. Promoting the Armory show coming up, talking about the matches, just big blocks of text that roll through every single match. Those are going to be tough shows to watch just because it's so distracting.
But we'll make it through it.
It's one of those things I wish I would have never done like that. I wish I would have just, scrolling on the bottom's one thing, but having it scroll like credits, ugh. And that crappy, grayish looking text from our character generator, that's how it came through. Yeah, well, that is what it is, right? But yeah, as you can see, the wrestling abilities here in these days is still rough. We only had one practice session so far in Fred. Remember, the way we did Fred Moore, one weekend we had it every weekend. So one Saturday we'd do tapings, the next Saturday we'd practice. The following Saturday tapings, the one after that practice. So taping, practice every week. And we only had one practice. What's that?
I was going to say, I remember when I joined every week that I was in Minnesota.
Yep. I mean, we were the taping or we were doing a practice. And so the practicing, you can really tell in the later part of Fred Moore and even leading to the Armory how much that practicing sessions helped. We really started getting better with the moves. But at this point, we've only had one practice session, so this is still like garage style from the garage days wrestling. We're not quite, I don't even know if we were ready to go into the Anoka Armory like we were. But I was just being ambitious. I wanted to do it so bad.
Just to prove that you could do it.
Yep. Never guessed we would have had 300 and some plus fans coming through the door, though. Would have never guessed that. I knew we had an audience, but I didn't know we'd have that kind of draw. I was hoping a couple, maybe 100, 150. I would have been happy.
No,
at the time. What's that?
I do have a quick question for you about that first Armory card. When you looked at the monitor in the back room and you saw that arena as full as it was, what was the first thought in your head?
Well, I never saw the monitor. And I'll tell you why. Because I was so busy getting everything kind of coordinated, I wasn't even looking at it. The way I found out that the crowd was there was when my dad came in to the dressing room and said, you realize you got about 300 or so fans out here? I said, what? I was in shell shock, and then I looked at the monitor. And I seen it, and I thought, oh my gosh! And then everybody heard my dad, and so we all kind of went to the monitor, and we're just like, because we weren't, nobody know if anybody's paying attention to the monitor. This is a little tiny TV, right? About so big, and so, and then as excited as I was, and just couldn't wait to go out to the ring for the first time, I really started to feel nervous. For the very first time, thinking, oh my God, we got a crowd out here.
Yeah, I remember on the October 18th show, as I remember it, we had a lot of people wanting to go out and look at the crowd prior to their match.
I mean,
you were having issues keeping us in the...
Well, the first Armory card, though, it was uncharted waters. I didn't know first of all, I had all the kids come to the Armory right after school to help, because we needed helping hands. So we had a lot to do. We had to get the ring put together. We had to get the lighting unit put up. We had to get the chairs all assembled. There was just so much to do. So I was like a chicken with the head cut off, running around trying to get everything coordinated and done. And then when the doors open, get all the kids into the locker room and stay in there. And that was the hardest thing, to keep them in that locker room, because he kept wanting to run out and peek and look out the door and everything else. Sports Talk's got a question, Dave. What was the average ages of the people who came to your Armory shows? All over. There were elderly folks, whether they were people's grandmas or whatever, I don't know. They were adults, they were kids, they were teenagers. There was just an entire smorgasbord of ages, from my memories.
But with the NWF, the kids' tickets cost more than the parents' tickets.
They were. Everybody thinks that's a misprint, and it wasn't a misprint. Tickets prices for children were $1 more than adults, and you know why I did that, Dave?
Well, I know why. You and I have had this conversation.
I knew from the hotline of all the messages getting left over the first couple of years of the show, I knew our demographic, and I knew who our audience was, and that was kids.
Yep.
So I figure if they're the biggest demographic, we're going to charge more for the kids to come than the adults. It was just my twisted way of thinking at 16 years old. That just turned 16 actually, around that time. But it's not the way to do it. But that's what my thinking was. I guess if you had to put a thumb on it, though, there was a big mix, but there was more kids than adults. Honestly, a lot more little kids. When I say little kids, I mean like. Just a little too young to be on the show. Like, we always said ages. Yeah, we always said you had to be at least 10 to be on the show. That 7 to 10-year-old range. A lot of those kind of that age.
That was Kid Kelsey having a few of us.
But yeah, I mean, you can kind of see it too when you watch the first Armory and kind of see the crowd in there. You get a good idea there what I'm talking about. There's just a really good mix. But you figure all those kids, their parents have to come with them. So that's probably why we had the mix that we had, Everybody thinks nowadays people say, well, what would adults be interested in watching a bunch of kids try to do professional wrestling? Why do adults get entertained watching, varsity football, junior, middle school football games and sporting events? It's entertaining.
Exactly.
It's still entertaining.
It's 2 hours that they can get away from reality and just be entertained.
Yeah, it's really what it comes down to. Yeah.
Plus, we were a lot less expensive to go to than going to a NWA show, an AWA show.
Yeah. That we were. Gizmo says, did you ever have any problems with spectators during any of your shows? As far as getting out of hand or anything like that? I can tell you a few incidences. that happened that I remember. On the very the big sellout card, Dave, that you were on, October 18th, 450 fans, and
Yeah.
we advertised it as All-Star Wrestling. And there was concern there. I mean, Chris thought we were going to get in trouble because we used the AWA's slogan, trademark. They had it trademarked, and we used it. Another wrestling outfit got sued by the AWA for doing that, and it was in the paper and everything right prior to our event. And Chris Barger was just convinced this was going to happen to us. Vern didn't do anything. Like, Vern ain't going to come after us. Look, Vern admired what we were doing. I know he did. And he was well aware of what we were doing.
Yep.
But I didn't know that.
Video of it.
But the incident that happened was there was a fan that I remember. I don't know who it was that came in. One of the moms that ran the ticket counter came in, and they said there's somebody who bought a ticket that is a little upset. And they want to talk to the person in charge. So they come and got me. And so I went over there and I talked to the guy, and I said, "What's the problem?" And he's like, "He goes, I was understanding this was going to be All-Star Wrestling." I said, "No, it's not. I mean, it's NW." Or he goes, "I was understanding this was going to be the AWA." I said, "No, this is not the AWA. It is the NWF, and this is our third event here." He says, "Well, I kind of thinking it was going to be that." I said, "No, it's not." I said, "But I tell you what," I said, it is the NWF. It hasn't started yet. I mean, there might have been one match. I said, "But if you want, we'll be more than happy to refund your money, and you can go home if you don't, this wasn't what you expected." And the guy said, No, I'm fine. I just, he just wanted to say, But when I came out and talked to him, he was fine. He wanted to watch the rest of the show. So, but he did complain.
The only other instance where I can think of a fan getting out of hand is a very young Jamie McParland trying to jump in the ring.
He did jump in the ring, and he slugged Taylor in the back. Yeah, Jamie McParland jumped in the ring in Brooklyn Park. Another thing happened, too, on the July card. I remember I was done with my match, and I was walking back after doing that huge Broadway with Steve when I was exhausted. And some kid yelled at me. He called me by my first name, so he knew. I must have knew him in school. And he said, yelled out Sean or something about. He looked at me, and he's like trying to intimidate me. It wasn't like a friendly thing. I can't remember exactly what he said. And I just looked at him and smiled and went right in the dressing room, just kind of blew it off. Right? He was He was on the other side of the building where I was. I don't recognize who it was. I can't remember who it was. I remember that, but I remember him trying to intimidate me somehow. I remember that.
Yeah.
Or call me out, kind of, by my first name, because nobody really knew me as Sean. It was Crusher on the show, right? So, I remember that. But otherwise, no, spectators didn't. They just watched the show and
Sat back and enjoyed the time that they were entertained by us.
Just that one guy that complained at the October card. And just think, out of 450 fans, only one person complained. Now, when that news got to Jason Clausen that guy complained, Jason was a nervous wreck. He was afraid. Everybody out there was convinced this was supposed to be AWA because of that one guy complaining, and he was afraid they were going to start throwing things at him in the ring when he starts the show.
Yeah.
I said, Jason. I said, calm down. I said, that was one guy. I said, Jason, this is our third event here. They all know what they're going to get here. You're going to be fine. I had to talk him down. I had to talk him down to several pedestals. Sports Talk 117 says, did either one of you ever get bullied or catch flack for being involved in the show? There's a good question. Dave, I'll let you go first.
For me, it wasn't so much being in the show. It was just my love of pro wrestling. I was not shy I wasn't a closet wrestling fan when I was younger. I was very public about it. I would read wrestling magazines during lunch, and I had an altercation with Golden Gloves box.
Well, and for me, I never got bullied. I would catch flack. I mean, as far as shit. Meaning that there would be people saying like, "Oh, you're on that silly wrestling show," type of thing.
Yeah.
From the people that didn't necessarily know me, but would run across me at school. I'd sometimes get that, and usually when you got that kind of response, they just didn't like professional wrestling at all. They thought wrestling, because there were kids that didn't like pro wrestling, weren't into it, thought it was fake. They'd always say, "Oh, it's just fake." And then, yeah, we'd hear. I remember, "You're on that fake wrestling show," or "You're on that fake kids wrestling show." Type. Get on that. For those guys, I just let it go in one ear and out the other. Never let it bother me. I'll tell you another story with Adam Nash, the Dynamite Dude. I've shared that story before. He was a tough kid, and we all would play hockey growing up, right? In the parks and stuff in Minnesota, they always had outdoor hockey. Just it was like street hockey, but it was on ice and it was with the boards, and it was more kind of like a real hockey game. And we'd always play the whole neighborhood. I mean, it was if you were in Minnesota growing up, if you didn't play hockey, most everybody skated, right?
Yep.
Myself included. But this is one day, Adam Nash, the Dynamite Dude, was out at the playing hockey one night, and he's in the warming house. Because they had little warming houses where you'd all go in and warm up, all the other kids. And the kids started getting on his case about the show, giving him a hard time about it. And Adam's like, and they were saying fake wrestling. And Adam said, "Oh, you think it's fake? Let me show you how fake it is." Because Adam, if you knew Adam for real, he would not take anything from anybody. And he'd get offended like that. And so he was offended. So he said, "I'm going to show you how fake it is. Let me demonstrate." And he got a kid to lay down, and he wrapped the figure 4 leg lock on this kid, and he reefed on it because he wanted him to feel it. And the kid was screaming in pain. Adam told me the story. He was screaming in pain, and he added out, and he said his knee was hurting, he's limping. I said, "Adam, don't ever do that off the show again." It's like, "Why?" They were giving me crap. I said, "I don't care. Let it go in one ear and out the other. You're going to get this whole thing shut down if that kid goes to his parents and makes a complaint." You know? I really got on him for that. I said, "Adam, I get it. They're giving you a hard time. I get it. But, man, you can't demonstrate the moves outside the show like that."
You know, if somebody would have said to me, "Oh, well, you're on that fake wrestling show," my response to them would be, "Oh, so you watch that fake wrestling show, huh?"
Well, our responses now, Dave, are much more quick-witted because we can think that way. But when you're a kid at that age with that mentality, the first thing that comes to mind is, "I'm going to show you how fake it is."
Yeah.
I would do the similar things, but only with kids I knew. More so, my kids in the neighborhood would come and they'd watch us practicing in the ring in my backyard, and they'd see the ring bouncing up and down. They're like, "Oh, you got that spring," and they're looking. "Oh, there's a spring under there. This doesn't hurt." I said, "Come on in the ring. Let me show you. I'll give you a demonstration." And I'd always do the body slam. That was always the perfect move to demonstrate. Because as you know, Dave, you found that out the hard way too. When you first get body slammed and you're not ready for it, knocks the wind right out of you.
Yep.
So that was always a good one to do. I said, and then I'd always say, was they're gasping for their breath, "How fake was that?" You know, after a while, you get to learn you learn how to land. You get used to it. And, it's
your body gets calloused.
Yeah, it comes regular, like riding a bike. But when you never done it, and it's new.
You know, it's like I've seen in a bunch of documentaries. There's being in shape, and then there's being in ring shape.
Right. And body slamming somebody and knocking the wind out of them is one thing. Putting a figure 4 leg lock is a dangerous move if you do it properly to hurt somebody, you can snap their knee,
Right.
their kneecap. So I said, Adam, man, don't. That's not the move to even be doing, and playing around with. If you watch a figure 4 leg lock, for those of you who've never really done this, and you notice how Ric Flair's always pulling down on the leg, that actually relieves the pressure. If Rick were to push up on that leg, that's where the damage comes, and that's what Adam was doing.
Or put pressure on with the legs.
Or the legs, yes. Yep.
Because I had a kid ask me to show him the figure 4 how fake it was.
Yeah.
This after I was already done with the league, and he asked to see how fake the move was, so I put a little added pressure on the legs.
Yeah.
But I told him, I said, if it starts to hurt, let me know and I'll let go.
Yeah. I mean, it's a dangerous move. Boston Crab's another one that can hurt somebody. You got to do these moves. Camel clutch, Dynamite Dude, we're speaking to him. He put the camel clutch on Ref Ryan back in a title match, trying to get him to submit, and really reefed on it for him, trying to get him to give up. Ryan couldn't breathe, and we didn't know it. And Ryan was just in tears when he got out of there because he was so scared of what happened. And so I'm gonna bring this volume down here just a second, just because we got copyrighted music, and I don't want to get. By the way, I forgot to mention this for those of us joining. We're only streaming on YouTube now going forward, just so everybody knows, and that's because of the way they handle music. YouTube allows copyrighted music for the most part because they have agreements with the record industry. Facebook doesn't have those agreements. So when copyrighted music shows up on Facebook, it really hurts us there. And so we just don't want to take any chances with that. So we decided, Dave and I made the executive decision, we're just going to go to YouTube for the streams, for the live streams now. Just FYI. So, good questions tonight, guys. It's interesting stuff. Dave and I always love answering those. But no, not a whole lot of. I just remember the fake wrestling stuff. I remember kids bringing that up. Sports Video's got another question. This question is for both of you. What was your worst injury during your wrestling days, Dave?
Well, mine was that body slam when it knocked the wind out of me.
Yep, small, right on the small of your back.
Yep.
Yep, and Chad's telling you to kick. You weren't smartened up yet, and Chad's telling you to kick out, and you're like, I can't.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it was not like it was a back, a long last. It was just a hurt for the day, right? You were kind of pretty much fine after a few days, right?
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while when I get stiff and sore, being older now, I wonder, hey, did that body slam have anything to do with this?
My dad always. My dad told me that though too, Dave. Especially when I was working for Eddie Sharkey, he's like, you can't keep doing this. Your body's gonna pay for this when you get older. Believe me. So he was always reminding me of that. I had 2 major injuries. Not major, but major to me. One was I've talked about is when I broke my finger. I did a power slam with Steve at Brooklyn Park, Armory card. I threw him against the ropes and I did a power slam, which looked beautiful, by the way. But my hand got behind his back and I stubbed my finger on the mat underneath Steve when he landed. And I broke my finger during the match. And we kept going. That's the thing, with the professional wrestling in front of a crowd, you don't, we don't stop. So I had to go and finish it with a broken finger. And that hurt like a bugger. And when you break your finger, there's not a lot they can do for you. They just give you a splint. And I had it broken 3 spots.
Ouch.
Yeah, it wasn't a compound fracture, but they're fractures. So That was a tough one. The other injury I had is when I had Chuck Roberts, Roughhouse Roberts, and a Boston Crab on our very first garage show. And I had him in the Boston Crab, and Merciless Mike, or not, I'm sorry, I had Merciless Mike in the Boston Crab, and Roughhouse Roberts jumps on my back to break this hold. And Dave, when you're in a Boston Crab, your arms are locked. You're in a locked position. So when he jumps on my back, I go face first into the mat. And no way to break the fall. And so I just did a face plant on the wooden stage mat, put my tooth right through my bottom lip. There was a hole through my lip. Blood everywhere. And I remember my mom got home and I was showing her and she's like, we got to take you in and get stitches. I'm like, no. Because I, growing up, have had enough stitches. You know, I used to, this one eye here, my eyebrow's crooked because I had so many stitches from knocking on my head and busting my eye socket open. And I knew what stitches felt like. It felt like getting stung by a bee every time they run that needle through you. So I'm like, it's not bleeding more. Let's let it heal. To this day, I got a lump there. But if I would have got stitches, it would have healed up right. But those are the two worst. I mean, that for me.
And then the time you gig too deep.
Yeah, but that wasn't really an injury. That was just me. You know, that was when I was 18. That was the fad at the time. I was an adult, so I could do it. And I wanted to blade. And didn't do, learn the hard way on doing that the wrong way. Yep.
Secret is you just barely break the skin.
Yep.
And you let your sweat and the blood combine together and it looks gruesome.
Yeah. Good questions, guys. Great questions as always. Yeah, by the way, I reached out to Subforce Arnie. And I also tried, I have no way to get a hold of the other guy, Wrestling Revolution Keaton. All I can do is try to comment on his comment and hope he reads it. I haven't heard anything from Subforce Arnie, but I've told him I'd love to have them come on our show and be guests and show some footage of what they're doing and show what they're all about. So we've put the olive branch out there. I'm hoping they get a hold of us.
Yep.
And we can have them come on. I think it'd be very fitting. And I'd love to see the questions you guys ask these guys, these youngsters who are currently doing this stuff.
Passing the torch.
Yeah. I mean, they're current. They're doing it today. They're going through training and everything. They have training footage on their site. Very, very interesting. So.
And it'd be kind of nice to pass the torch off to another generation.
Right. And we're different styles. We get that.
Yep.
We're old school. They're modern. But it's still professional wrestling, and we have that brotherhood with that with all the professional wrestling. It's a certain brotherhood there.
And it doesn't matter, what company you're with. If you've wrestled or you're currently a wrestler, and you're truly a wrestler, you respect other people who have been in the business.
Right? Like our friend Mike Grimsley, the way he talks to us,
Yep.
the way we talk, he treats us like an equal. And he's been in the business.
I'm not going to mention names on air, but I've even got a couple friends that have been up in the WWE. I'll tell you off air, Crusher, but
Yeah.
There are people I can shoot a message to, and they'll respond fairly quickly.
Yeah. Good question here from Sky Sports Video News. In the 80s, HIV was just coming out. Was there any apprehension about wrestling with a blood injury back then? Not at all, because HIV was so new. Nobody knew anything about it. We heard about it, and it was so minute of an issue at that time that you didn't even think of it. So no. But I have years later said, man, not knowing what I know now, I'd never be doing this kind of stuff. Blading with other wrestlers, never know what you're going to get.
I wonder how people like Dusty and Flair and Abdullah and Bruiser Brody didn't have anything worse than what they have.
The only one I knew of was Abdullah the Butcher gave somebody. There's accusations that he gave somebody something. Can't remember the other guy. They actually went to court over it, actually.
Yeah, I believe it was allegedly Abdullah the Butcher gave somebody Hep C.
Yeah, Hep C, yeah. And I feel bad. You know, I met Abdullah the Butcher. You know, when we did our fan fest in Maryland, he was right next to us, and he took a liking to us. He gave us a picture. He gave Charlie a picture with him. He didn't charge a dime. Didn't do that for anybody else at the convention. Other wrestlers come up, he would charge them. But he gave us a free one because he liked us. And but anyways, he's a nice guy. And you know, from what I understand, he doesn't know, he can't read, I guess. So he got all these court notices, couldn't read them, didn't know what it was all about. That's why I never showed up to the trials. And so I kind of felt bad for him in a way, you know, because he seems like a really nice guy, you know, outside everything I've ever seen in my own experience with him.
I've got little hellions trying to come visit.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I turned the volume down, didn't bring it back up. Sorry, you guys. I'll get it up here a little bit more. Yep. But yeah, that's
These people.
but that the whole blood thing. You know, when we learned about blading when I was 18, it was at the it was when I didn't own the NWF anymore and Ernie was running it, and I was like 18. So those of us who were adults could actually do it. It was the new thing. It's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna blade now. This is how it's done. We're gonna do it right. So everybody's wanting to do it, and myself included. It was like a fad almost at the time in professional wrestling. And man, did I learn the hard way. You know, using surgical blades, cutting them up properly, and yep. Yeah, guys still talk to me about that were at that taping. John Hoffman comes to mind. He's like, "Do you remember when you did that?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "I never forget that." He goes, "My mom said to me, is he going to be okay?" She was worried, he said. He goes, "You guys don't ever do that, right?" And she's like, "No, Mom, we won't do that." John Hoffman, I can't wait to get the Destructors on as guests. They're going to come on as guests here one of these days, and I can't wait to talk to those guys.
Oh, yeah. Well, it'll be nice to touch base with Gary again. And
yeah, and Leslie, and maybe they can get a hold of Ryan as well. Get all of them on. John wanted to make a big production of it, do it like at his place with all of them together. So
yeah.
Kind of cool. Steve bringing up Luscious Larry as early as before the first Armory card, Dave.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about foresight, huh?
Yeah. February 5th. That's where Jason Klassen became my official co-producer in the beginning of '86. Jason was one of those guys when he joined the show that I just knew he was a guy that I needed to be hooked up with because he had a creative mind and I could see it right away, and I just wanted him in on the creating side of things with me.
With me, it took a little while to learn that.
Yeah. Notice how we put AWA agent Roy Nelson?
Yep.
When I always would check in with Roy, he brought it up. He's like, "I understand you got my name in your credits." So what do I say? I said, yeah, we do, because we've been in touch with you. We want to give you credit for that, kind of thing. And it's like, okay. He never said no, don't do it anymore, but he did bring it up to me. So that's what I'm saying. The AWA had eyes and ears on what we were doing, Dave. Trust me.
Oh, they knew about us.
Yeah.
They just chose to leave us alone because either A, Vern appreciated what we were doing, or B, you know, he didn't want to look like a jerk for shutting down a bunch of kids following their dream.
With a bunch of positive stories out there that have been in the news and
Yeah.
the paper and everything. Yeah. So it was an image thing for Vern. But I think deep down, behind the scenes, Vern admired what we were doing.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, how could you not? Shit. And the kid inside Vern would have admired what we were doing, thinking back
Oh,
when
yeah.
he was a kid. So, as you can see on that banner up there, Dave, we only have a few days left. So make sure you cast your votes for the Hall of Fame because
Cast your vote and make it count.
come midnight on March 31st, it's all over. It stops.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. One of my supervisors where I work, I was telling him about the voting, and he was giving me crap, and he goes, "Oh, I voted, and I voted for you." He goes, "So if you win by one vote, you got to spend one day off here at work."
yeah. Yeah, it's a fun time. It's an exciting time, and I'm just happy for the people that will get voted in. And
Yep, it's the last chance for anybody to enter the hallowed grounds of our Hall of Recognition.
we're going to be back. Normally we'd be off next week, but we are going to be on next week just to do the results and the random.org randomizer to see who wins the top prizes and all that stuff too. So people are kind of wondering how that's going to work. What we're going to do is we have all your email addresses from when you voted, and we're going to mask those emails, which means we're going to take out characters in the middle of it. So you'll have a little bit of the beginning of the email and a little bit of the end of it, and then you'll have some asterisks. So you won't really know all the characters that were in there. But if it was your email, you'll have a pretty good guess that it was yours.
Right.
And we're going to take all those emails, we're going to bring them in to random.org, and we're going to randomize them. And when we randomize them up a couple times, probably, since it's our fourth Hall of Fame, we'll probably do it 4 times. We'll randomize those addresses. Then we'll take the addresses out and we'll paste them into the spreadsheet, and who's ever at the top on down will get the prizes of the belts first, and then we'll do the prizes for the Armory DVD sets and some NWF Rewind t-shirts, the book and documentary. So I'm planning on giving away, I think, around 35 or so, I think is what I'm at, as far as what I'm going to do as people that can win something. So you'll have a pretty good chance to get something. And for those of you who opted out, some people opted out in the beginning from the way we did the voting. You had an option to opt out for the prize. Basically, if you can still opt out, and when you get a notice that you won something, if you don't, you'll have 30 days to claim it. And if you don't claim it, that's your way of opting out. So, because some people were just content with voting, they didn't need a prize or anything. So,
right.
And that's fine. Yeah. So that was a good question.
Won't you also be contacting the person by email?
Well, that's what I said. You'll get emailed when you win.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll get an email saying you've won such and such or whatever you won, and then you'll have to reply with your mailing address so we can get it to you. So that's how that's all going to work. But we're going to do that on the show. We're going to do the randomizer on the show, and then so that way you see it's all, there's no funny business. Right. I'm going to slowly scroll through all the masked emails so you can get a look to make sure that you see your email in there if you voted, and then we'll randomize them up, and then see who wins. And then also, Dave, we're going to announce the winners of the Hall of Fame on that show. No announcements will be made until next Thursday.
Exactly.
So it's going to be...
Ladies and gentlemen, I won't even know until we're on air next week.
Yep.
I specifically asked Crusher, let's keep it a surprise.
Yep. Dave's going to help me reveal them So he's going to hit the little thing. He doesn't know this yet, but he's going to hit the thing that's going to show who wins when we announce them, only because I need his help. And then, but he won't know who it is. It's going to be disguised. So he won't actually see it until it pops up on the screen with you guys. So that's how we're going to reveal our winners. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be our last Hall of Fame. We'll make a deal of it, right? And,
And you know, I know we've preached this before, but with our Hall of Fame voting, Crusher got 1 vote, I get 1 vote.
Yep.
Our votes do not ultimately decide who gets in, who doesn't.
Right. Yep. It's really up to all you guys voting.
Yep.
And so make sure you vote if you haven't already. Don't forget it's March 31st, like it says, is the final. And like I said, if you haven't already, give us a like on this live stream. Make sure you like it. That really helps
If you really
us.
like it, then subscribe.
Yeah, and subscribe too if you haven't done that. Now that we're only on YouTube.
And if you're a first-time viewer, after you've liked and subscribed, hit that bell icon.
Yep.
That way it'll notify you anytime we go live, just in case we pop something in. And Crusher, wanted also let them know, like, when you drop the upscaled videos.
Oh yeah, anytime I upload a video or anything, as long as you have that bell indicated, at least get notified that there's something new. So yeah, and it's not like you're not going to get bombarded with, when you subscribe to us, it's not like we go live every day and you're going to get all these notices and it's going to be annoying and that type of thing. I put in maybe 2 or 3 videos a week at the most, and we do live every other week, so it won't be an annoying thing. Let's just say that. Sometimes you subscribe to these places. I was going to say, you get that bell on some of these channels, and you're getting notices every 5 times a day on some of these channels.
Oh yeah, I got one that I clicked on, and I'm regretting clicking on it just because, my phone will be going off during the day while I'm sleeping, telling me that this creator has uploaded 10 videos that day.
Right. And listen, Sky Sports Video News comment in here. He said, "This is hard to pick winners in the Hall of Fame. All the wrestlers really deserve a great deal of credit for just stepping in the ring." But a lot of the guys. Let me just say this, Sky Sports. A lot of the guys, like Jamie has said, it's just an honor to be nominated.
Yeah.
He's like, if I don't win, I'm just. It's an honor for me to be nominated, and that's enough for them as well. So because we nominated 22 wrestlers out of probably 60. That could have been nominated.
And that number could have been higher if we would have included the one and dones.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Out of all of them, if you add it all up, everybody who stepped foot in our ring, there's probably 50 or 60 that are still out there, if not more. And so just to be nominated is an honor for them, and to be able to get in is it's like I said, that's what it is. It's just recognizing those who we feel deserve to be recognized on our show, and they understand, they get it, they know there's only 4 spots, so it's not like you'll be, don't worry about leaving anybody out or anything like that. Just vote who you want to vote. Like Dave said, give it consideration for how you feel. Who you think.
And like, speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for anybody else, just myself. If I don't make it in, hey, there's people that are more deserving than I am because of their ability. I'm not going to be sour grapes over not getting in.
Right. A lot of people say, when they look at our Hall of Fame, some people are going to say, well, shouldn't you be voting on who was actually the best on the show, best in the ring, like the WWE Hall of Fame would be more so for, right? On how you did? Or is it more about, in our case, I look at it this way. I say, that's part of it. But also, what were they like behind the scenes? What were they like? What was their character like? how devoted were they to the show? No
Yep.
matter what they were in the ring, but how devoted were they to always want to be on it, be a part of it, and believe in it, right? You know, that's a big part of it to me. And you guys know this about me because I I have, even back in the day, didn't judge you for what you were like in the ring. That was never my deal. A lot of
It
people will
was
say,
what you were like away from the ring.
right, and a lot of
Did
guys
you
will,
represent yourself in the company well?
yeah, and a lot of guys will say, well, you were like Jamie says, he was the best of us all. Well, maybe I was, but I didn't. That wasn't the requirement to be on the show, right? The requirement was that you just had to really. I wanted this door open for any other kid who felt the way I did. That's what it was all about. Gizmo says, comment here. He says, "Do you guys remember most of the wrestlers from back or then, or were they just mostly one-day wonders?" There's a bit of both.
I
Obviously,
mean,
they got
admittedly, on my end, I remember more of the people from my era.
yeah,
But as you guys have seen, I'm very cordial with any era people that come in. I respect the people that came in before me and built the groundwork that I stood on. You know, I mean, when we talked to Luxury Lane, you know, him giving me the credit that he gave me, you know, it was kind of a chill moment for me.
yeah. Charlie,
You know,
look, Charlie understands that he was in the beginning and he wasn't there for the heyday. But he, so to him, you know, he really admires you guys in your time, Dave, for just
yeah.
taking it to the next level. That's what Charlie always says, you know, taking it to the next level. That's what you guys did, and he knows it, and he also knows that you guys appreciate what he did. If it wasn't for Charlie Lane, you know, people got to understand this. I take a lot of credit for this league, but if it wasn't for Charlie Lane, Chuck Lane as he likes to go by now, if it wasn't for him, this show would have never happened. Bottom line. Why is that? Because Charlie was a fan of wrestling. He watched professional wrestling. He was watching the AWA. I wasn't. And if it wasn't for me calling him, interrupting him on a Sunday morning when Hulk Hogan had a pair of brass knuckles was going to hit Nick Bockwinkel, and he hung up on me for that, I wouldn't have flipped the channel on to see what the heck was going on. So, look, Lane is so important to this puzzle. And people got to remember that. And that's why, well, Charlie is in the Hall of Fame, and rightfully so.
Yep.
But no, the one and done guys, the one and dones, those guys, I remember some of them. You know, especially when I see them pop on the show. But a lot of the tapes I don't have anymore from the early days when we had a lot of one and dones, when we didn't save those tapes in the Group W studio. I don't remember a lot of them because they were one and dones.
And you know, this is going to sound weird, but I respect the one and dones for the simple fact they gave it a try, and they were man enough to admit it wasn't for them. It was more than they were willing to dive into.
Yeah, they just wanted to try it, or they had a friend, and so they came to see how it was. And man, I guess the one and dones I remember, Dave, are the ones I knew in school. So I knew them, so I can remember them coming on the show for one show or two, and then they were gone. Gizmo says, they're not Gizmo. Sports Video says, did you have the problems of cliques forming in the company? The only time that happened, it would be with Thandar and Conan and company. When they kind of got a little bit of a click on our last Armory show where they felt that, you know, they didn't like the way the battle royal was going to go, so they took it into their own hands. They decided to go against the rule, what our decision was going to be.
Conan, Vandar,
Chad Holland, yep.
And
Who
was
was the one
Troy
in
in that battle royal?
Troy was in it, but he wasn't a part of that clique. But that was the clique. Was the Thandar.
Well, the only reason I was asking if Bulldog was a part of it.
Oh, yeah, he was cousins.
Yep.
But I don't think he was part of that. It was just the three of them. And that was kind of a bit of a clique. Otherwise,
But
no.
That was more of a bloods thicker than.
Yeah, it was kind of more of a family clique. They were all related and just felt they were being unappreciated in the show, I guess you could say, and wanted more spotlight. But otherwise,
Thandar has since apologized.
Oh
for
yeah,
that.
Tim actually apologized to me over that 20 some years later when I had gotten reconnected with them on Facebook. So we all get older and we all realize we made mistakes, myself included. And so look, that was we were teenagers. It happens.
Yep.
But besides that, my recollections of everybody though on the show was when you were on the show, you were part of that kind of that brotherhood, and
Yep.
it was one for all for one kind of attitude with everybody, really, especially in the Armory shows, when we all had to work together to make it work. That was critical if I didn't have everybody firing on all cylinders, I can't do it myself. It's just too big of a thing. It's too much. So I need everybody else. I might be the Pied Piper, but I need everybody else with me doing it. And I knew that. That's why I would have meetings and stuff before that first show, pep talks, whatever you want to call it, getting everybody up to speed on what we're going to do and how it's going to go. I remember
rewarding it afterwards.
I was going to say, Dave, before that very first Armory show, a week before, I had a meeting at my house. Everybody had to come, and all it was going over, you're going to do this, 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 this is what we're going to do. It was just in getting everybody on the same level, so they all knew what to expect on Friday, May 9th. I remember I had that meeting, and everybody, not only the kids, but I had anybody that was involved with it. I remember Mr. Manthe, our graphics arts teacher, volunteered to do the camera for us from school. I had him come to the meeting. And anybody that was involved in it came to that meeting. So, Damien says, guys, what is your next project after the Hall of Fame is over? Well, it's funny you bring that up because I had said at the beginning of the show that there will be a big announcement that I'm going to have for you guys regarding the NWF Video Library. And if you can take a hint at all the upscaling work I've been doing, giving you little snippets on the channel, that'll give you a little taste of what I'm talking about. We're going to have an announcement that we're going to make that's going to make everybody, I think, a little happier that, things are going to happen here in the near future. That's we'll just say it's going to be a better looking NWF wrestling going forward. Let's just say that, huh, Dave?
Yep.
And honestly, that is not easy. That upscaling stuff you've seen me doing, I said it earlier at the start of the show, it is not easy to do this. Okay, I don't know anybody that's doing it other than Hollywood that could do it, but they'll charge a fortune. You have to have $20,000 software to do that kind of stuff with them. That's what it goes for, to do it at that level. But what I mean by that is because I was like a scientist in a lab just mixing things and seeing what's working, what's not working. I'm using 4 different programs to make all this work. One program does something really well, another one does something really well, and I have to use both of them together, and then I get amazing results. It's almost like a chemist in a lab, to be able to get that to work right, where I can get those results that you've seen. And so I'm really excited for it. And it's only because I have such pride in what we did, Dave, and just really like all of you, I just cherish the memories we have on video. And if I can do anything to make them look better, I'm going to. So, and that's just the software side of things. Then there's the hardware side of things, and I have to make an investment there because I need things like a time-based corrector and just things that work behind the scenes that are not cheap to get right now, but it makes a difference in the quality of you get with capturing. So there's just a lot of things going on behind the scenes there, and that's what it's going to be. And like I said, Dave, I had my friends in the video production business, because I got a degree there, and I have a lot of guys I went to college with just recently here, and I've shared them the footage that we've done with the NWF with upscaling and improving it, and they're like, "You need to do this as a business. There's a whole market for this." And I said, "You're right, because I can take HD footage and turn it into 4K for the same way, in the same fashion." I wish we had HD footage, but what I'm doing could be applied to HD as well.
Right.
So yeah, so I may do that actually. But like I said, Dave, if I do that as a business, it's people people that want that converted, they're gonna pay for it because it's not cheap. It takes time and it takes work, but you're gonna get what you pay for. And that's the way it is in life, Dave. You get what you pay for. Always remember that, folks. There's my video professor, Rich, by the way, Rich Oxley, my instructor at school, and Jason Ewart, another good friend of mine that I worked with at the school as well as a student. Those two are going to come on as guests. They already told me they want to come on as guests. And I'm going to have them come on with us to do some of the watch alongs, because Rich was involved in community television back in the day when we were doing our stuff. So just to get his technical, and they're both wrestling fans. So to get his technical side, and Gizmo's always saying, "Where's the dirt on Crusher?" Well, here's some guys that might have some dirt on me, actually. We'll see. But yeah, they're going to come on, and one of our shows here, they just said, let us know when. So I'm going to give them some dates. We'll see, get them on here in the future.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're working on after the Hall of Fame. There's going to be some, we're making a special announcement on what we're going to do. And the show will keep, by the way, the NWF Rewind will continue, as always, every 2 weeks. We will be back next week. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say,
gets the bug up to go back to every week.
Well, every week was just a lot of work.
Yep.
But
the every other week gives him more time to do the upscaling.
Yep. And it's just like I said, it's just a lot of work on that. So don't be fooled when you see those clips. There's a lot going into that to make that happen. But man, the results! Have you ever seen VHS? Half-inch tape VHS quality turn into that? I've never seen it. So, not like that anyway. So I'm excited. We're all excited because to see that in a new light like that, cleaned up properly, looking good, that's exciting stuff. So remember, like and subscribe to the channel. Like this live stream if you can too, because that'll help the algorithm for getting people to watch it, and everything helps. And good questions tonight, guys. Really appreciate you guys tuning in every week and joining us and listening to us ramble like we do.
Now, Crusher, just a little disclosure for everybody. I may have been the idea guy, but Crusher's the one who puts the show together every week. And I find out earlier in the day, like, what we're going to watch for the watch along. Now, for next week, are we doing a watch along, or are we just doing all the reveals and the drawings?
Yeah, it won't be a watch along because it's too much to do. We got to announce everybody. I might have little clips to show of the winners, just quick little clips type of thing. But otherwise, it'll be more of just a kind of a revealing and then talking with everybody. So yeah, that'll be next week's show. We'll announce who won. We'll talk about them as well. We'll have some time to talk about who won and their history at the company, and just what made them special.
The only possible inductees that'll be there next week are Crusher and myself.
Yep. And but it'll be a fun show. And then get to see, and I'm really excited to see who's going to win that Andre 87 championship belt. That's a nice belt, you guys. Oh, that's
You
a
know,
good belt.
The only reason I say word it this way, out of the belts that can be won, that's the only one I'd want to win.
And Dave's got about 50 some belts behind him there. So think about that.
64.
64. Yeah. But then remember though, besides that Andre belt, there's also the NWA Dome Globe, and then there's 3 NWF belts, including my favorite belt of all, that blue one up there. Somebody's gonna get that. Somebody's gonna get the
Well, you see,
national belt
Crusher.
right below it.
Crusher, there's a thing though. There's only one reason why I don't want to win the NWF belts.
Why is that?
I've already got them all.
You got them all. But the
And as
and then
far as your NWA Dome Globe, I look to my right, and I have 2 of them.
and then the we're giving away one of our NWF World Tag Team belts, that magenta one up there. It's a 2 mil version, and it's got some scuffs on the actual leather, so just a disclaimer there. But otherwise, they're great belts. Ring worn, right?
And you're getting the belt for free. You're getting the belt for free.
And as Dave likes to say, when they got little blemishes like that, it's ring used type of look.
It gives them a ring used look.
Yeah. So good prizes
And then,
for everybody. And
the only other prize that I can think of would be if you're giving away one of the new Rewind shirts.
oh yeah, it's gonna be the new Rewind shirts. It's not gonna be the
I've
old
got
ones.
the original Rewind shirt.
Yep.
Just haven't gotten the new one.
Not giving away I'm only giving away a handful of the shirts because they're not cheap to get shipped and made and everything. So
The only reason I'm waiting to order mine is I'm waiting to see what the Hall of Fame shirt looks like for this.
yeah.
year.
And of course the Hall of Fame shirt, I can't even start working on it till the voting's done. So that'll come out later. But there'll be a Hall of Fame shirt. I got ideas. I know kind of how I want to go about it. So for being the 40th anniversary, I want to make it look a little different. So yeah. So it'll be a cool shirt though. People are asking me too if they can still get the old Hall of Fame shirts. The one from when I won it in the first year, and I can reintroduce those shirts too. I should probably do that because I still have the graphics for it. But yeah, I really enjoy the questions tonight. I think the one I like the most, honestly, was Damian Thorne's question. If you guys could go back to any age during the show, what age would you pick? That was a really good question, because
one question I have for Damien with that.
Yeah.
Okay, if we go back to that age, do we have the knowledge that we have now so we can alter the way things have happened for us throughout our life?
Well, that's the way I took the question.
Right.
If I could just go back and not know anything, well, obviously I'd want to go back to the very beginning and just experience it all again.
Yep.
I'll tell you this much: when on the show number 1, when we were doing those basement shows in that time period, there's even an interview of me explaining how we're going to try to construct a wrestling ring, and it's going to be an actual wrestling ring. And I'm like describing it and everything on the show. So my mind was already thinking, this is where we got to go with the show, right? We're on bed mattresses right now, but this is going to be the future of the show. And so for all the kids out there that want to try to do something like we did, think big. Don't think small, think big. You have to have those goals if you're ever going to even think of getting to reach them. So,
if I may give advice, I'm going to give everybody out there the same advice I give my children, because I've got children with disabilities. And the advice that I gave them is the only limitations that you're limited to in life is what you limit yourself to.
Yeah. Yeah, you're the biggest obstacle. Yourself is the only thing that can really get in your way. And when I say that, I mean when you start doubting yourself.
Exactly.
That's your worst enemy. So if you can counter that and then not listen to other people when they say no, that's the next thing. You know, when other people don't understand and they just assume, well, you can't do that, it's impossible. They don't have any self-confidence themselves. Yeah. They lack confidence, and so they feel it's not possible. You just can't let that, it's fine to listen to them, but you can't let that determine your way of thinking. If you believe in something, you believe in it. Right?
Well, it's like, for instance, Crusher, something real simple. When I first presented the idea to you about doing a podcast, your first response to me was, I don't know how we go about doing it.
Yeah, I didn't know how streaming software works. I didn't know anything.
A couple weeks later, I get a call from Crusher saying, if we're going to do that podcast you were talking about, I'm only going to do it if you're going to do it with me.
Right, because you need somebody to talk with. It's not the same. Even before you got here, it was like, it's just me. I need something to bounce off of.
Well, I'm big and fluffy to bounce things off of.
Well, yeah, I mean, you gotta have the back and forth. I mean, you gotta have the banter. So, as my instructor Rich Oxley would say, we gotta have back and forth banter. Yes, both. What age if you knew what you know now, and if you didn't remember? So we all kind of answered. Dave and I answered as if we knew, but then so both. So if we didn't know what we know now, what age would we want to go to? If we could just pick an age to kind of plop into. Well, if that's the case, and not knowing anything, I'd probably want to start right around the show we were on right now, 57, right before the first Armory, and go from there. Because that was just a really good time for the show. It was the building of 86. It just became so monumental. It just kept, the monument. It was just like almost unstoppable the way we got rolling with it.
I wish I could have gotten into the show sooner.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for you.
it longer.
Right, for you, for sure. Been a part of it earlier on.
I mean, I got into it right after that first big hurdle got overcome.
Yeah. Yeah, that was... I was almost going to say, too, maybe a good time to come into the show, too, would have been right when Larry started shouting his mouth off in Brooklyn Park, and I knew something was not going right. I could see the attitude change in him, and I was pissed. I remember, I don't think I've ever told this, but at Brooklyn Park Armory show, we had just did the Anoka Armory, big sellout, with Luscious Larry. Then we did that Champion Legion with Eddie Sharkey, the dual event, which I had Larry. I decided who the NWF matches were. So I said, let's bring in Steve and Larry because I thought it would be more on par with what Eddie was doing and he'd appreciate that kind of a match. Knowing now that Eddie wanted more of us. I didn't know it though at the time. He wanted the kids. He didn't want he has his guys. He didn't need them, right?
He wanted the clay he could mold.
Right. So anyways, and then we get to Brooklyn Park, and now by this time, Luscious Larry thinks this is all these people are coming to these events because of him. And so he is now barking orders at everybody, telling everybody what to do, yelling and everything. And I even got into him and said, and he starts barking at me. And I remember going up to Steve Engstrom and I said, Steve, who does he think he's yelling at here? Whose show does he think this is? He's like, just take it easy. Calm down. I know. He's just worried. He just wants to make sure everything goes good. Just don't let it get to you. Don't. Steve's trying to, calm me down because I was pissed. Because I'm looking at this like, who the hell does he think he is? That's the way I was thinking. And that's when I realized, Luscious Larry, something's going on here. He's not the guy that I knew when I first came in and I got him over as Luscious Larry in October. He's now turned into this invincible guy that he thinks he's the main attraction here.
He thinks he's the second coming of Hulk Hogan.
He honestly did. And it was how, I hate to say it me, but it was how well I booked him. It went to his head. What he didn't realize is the attraction, he's part of it, but he's not all of it. So, and he found that out when he broke away from us and tried to do his own thing. He had 10 people show up at some bar card. So Luscious Larry learned the hard way, folks, that you need the league that has the history, that has the 4 years on cable television leading up to this, or 3 years, whatever it was. And Larry didn't get that. He just thought it was, he learned the hard way. Let's just say that. And
you drew 10 people at his show, and half of those were probably his friends that he comped tickets to.
Well, it was August 23rd. There were 3 wrestling events going on that day. The NWA was in town for the first time in 40 years, and they were at the Met Center. You had us at the Anoka Armory, and you had Larry's NCWA going on in some place in Ramsey, I think it was, some bar, or maybe it was Blaine. So 10 people show up to his event, and this was from Steve Engstrom telling me. So Steve's not going to lie to me, because at that time he was with kind of them, and he's telling this is how many people showed up. We had about 50, it was about 70, just around 70, I think, is what we had in there. Yeah, which wasn't too bad considering the NWA was going on in town. Now, had the NWA not happened, who knows what we would have had, but
yeah,
that was just bad planning. Wasn't the first time I did that, though, Dave. I mean, I remember when we did that card against on that Sunday with
we went up against the AWA.
The AWA, which was here's the pull it in here so everybody can see this. I pulled this up on that one show that we did this on, but let's make it smaller so everybody can see it though.
Now, if you look at the numbers on there, people, if you look at the numbers on there, if I remember correctly, it said that we drew 450 people.
Yeah, this is,
and we were at max capacity.
Yep, in the Armory.
We were at the St. Paul Civic Center. Easily could draw, 6,000-7,000 people.
Oh, Civic Center? No. Try talking 19,000.
Okay.
18, 19.
So we maxed our house out. They only drew a quarter house.
And this is still when AWA had some names. Look at the names on that card. Midnight Rockers, Nick Bockwinkel, Jimmy Snuka. But, so this is a weekend where we did our big draw at the Anoka Armory with Luscious Larry. We did it ours on a Saturday. They did theirs on Sunday. The only reason I went into the Minneapolis Star Tribune archives. I didn't remember that this is how this went. I didn't realize that the AWA had a card that day. Otherwise, I would have wrote about it in my book. But they didn't have archives back then. But it's pretty remarkable if you think about it, to promote the same weekend as the big league in town, and you're able to draw 450 fans and sell out the Anoka Armory when they are going the following day at the Civic Center. And then for the Minneapolis Star Tribune to give us equal shared press. Pretty crazy, huh? Pretty incredible,
Yeah.
really. I'm very proud to see this. And I was very thrilled to see this. And, it just makes me, I'm not saying we're on the same level. We're not, but just to get the equal attention and to know that for a sliver of time, we were viable. We were actually viable. Tribune was covering us.
Well, the thing that really speaks to me with those articles side by side is, okay, you said the Civic Center was 19,000 people.
Yeah.
Okay. We were maxing out our house. The janitor at the guy that had to clean up the armory.
Yep. The old
was
man.
threatening to shut us down if we let more people in.
Well, it just reminded me that there is a capacity limit, and you guys look like you're getting really close. Yeah, he was concerned.
And the AWA, in their heyday, only drew a quarter of the house.
Well, AWA's heyday was a little earlier than this when they were selling out the Civic Center. But Dave, a major wrestling promotion, and we were able to draw a tenth of the crowd. I mean, that says something. Makes me.
And we could have drawn more if the janitor would have let us have more people in.
Yeah, because it was at one point it was standing room only, which then a lot of those people didn't really want to keep standing for the whole event. So some of those people just ended up leaving, I think. Or the janitor told them they had to. I don't know. I can't remember exactly how that all went. But yeah. Kind of neat stuff, though, if you think about it.
Like I said, to me, 86, the AWA was still very viable.
Oh, yeah. And he knew, trust me, guys, I was in touch with Roy Nelson, Vern Gagne's agent, constantly. And I was talking to him constantly that, letting them know every single time we did an Armory show. And they were well aware of what we were doing. They knew the numbers. And so I just don't think Vern knew how to deal with us, really. He just didn't know what to do with us. So Gizmo says, Crusher, thanks for sharing. That is the best answer I have ever heard to Damien's question. Which answer, Gizmo? I'm wondering if you're talking about what Dave said or what because I don't know. We both answered, didn't we?
Well, he was directing it towards you, so I'm guessing your answer.
Yeah, but like the part about how trying to get into when Larry came in and be a little more not letting him walk all over us. Yeah, that's the time. And believe me, if I could go back knowing what I know now, I would have fought. And everybody said this, but man, I would have fought that a lot harder than I did with Larry, wanting to change things, and switch it over and everything. He says the way you were able to pinpoint the moment in time. Yeah. I mean, yep. But as my good friend Charlie Lane, Luxury Lane would say, woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's always good to say, if I wished I could have done this. Well, we should have done it that way. Really, you can't dwell on that. You can't live in the past that way, regretting things. But if there was a magic time machine and we could go back knowing what we know now, things would be different in the NWF. Let's say that. So, but it's just, it was the right time. The 80s were the right time for an organization like us run by kids. And a lot of people say where were the parents? No, the parents were irresponsible. They weren't keeping an eye on us. We hear it all that, right? But
it was a different time, folks.
Yeah, it was a different time.
You didn't have the helicopter parents that you have now.
No, and they were keeping an eye on us. That's what people don't realize. They knew our show was on cable, so they could watch it, and they did. And if they seen something they didn't like or something else or whatever, they might tell us about it. They might say, hey, this, looks a little dangerous. Don't do this next time or whatever,
Or like if we'd be set up in your backyard, your mom would be in the kitchen washing dishes.
Yeah.
Making
Well,
sure that we were all okay.
yeah. And it was just, it was different, you guys. I remember, just growing up on the playground, like when we went to school, we had recess when we were in, elementary school up to like 6th grade, and you go out for recess. It was a
We
war
played
zone.
on metal equipment.
No, I was going to say it was a war zone with kids. Roughhousing,
Yeah.
King of the Hill, just fun wrestling, whatever you want to call it. And the teachers allowed it. Nowadays, kids can't even touch another kid like that on recess. It's not like that anymore.
I was just told about something earlier today that shows how sad society is getting. My fiance and I were out with a friend of hers, and she was talking about how her daughter got in trouble at school. Now, her daughter's very young, I believe under 10 years old. I don't know exactly, but I don't remember the ages exactly. But this little boy comes up, slaps my fiance's friend's daughter on the butt, and she punched him in the face for it. The boy didn't get in trouble. The girl defending herself did.
Yeah.
Still on it?
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot your friend that we got together with. The one that got in trouble at school.
Yeah, it's just a different time.
She's only like 7 or 8.
I don't remember. I don't remember how old that one is. Robin's got like 8, 9 kids.
But young kid getting in trouble at school for defending herself.
Right. It was different for us. Like I said, we're fortunate. That's why the show worked, because we were in a different time period. Although I'm really impressed though, Dave, with those kids in Europe. Subforce Arnie and Revolution Wrestling Keaton. Those guys they're onto something there, and I hope that continues, because I think that's good. I want them to continue and keep it going. But I suppose, Dave, we gotta wrap it up here.
Yep.
So for everybody watching, thanks for tuning in, all the questions and everything. I know we kind of rambled a little bit longer than we usually do at the end here, but it's been a good show. And we will be back next Thursday with the results of the Hall of Fame to see who wins what. So remember, March 31st, that's the deadline. Make sure you cast your votes.
Midnight. Don't forget to vote, and we'll see you next week.